I remember when I was a kid, I'd never go in my great-grandmother's room because she had a collection of China dolls. And as a child, dolls really freaked me out, and though they don't bother me anymore, there's something that always kind of stayed with me about them. That haunting, unending, unblinking stare. But that inspired tonight's story. Tonight's story is the Chinese doll. It all started last month, the worst thing that had ever happened in my life. I'm lucky to be here today. I suppose I should back up, however. It was a sunny April day, and I had woken in my bed as usual. I went outside to check the mail, seeing as it was noon, and I was already hungover too, mind you. As I looked in the mailbox, I saw a package. There was no stamp or return address or anything on it. I didn't quite understand who put this in my mailbox, but still I brought it inside to check, out of sheer curiosity. The package was about a foot long and 4 inches tall. I cut it open with a box cutter and laid it onto the kitchen table. I lifted the cardboard off carefully and looked inside. I rubbed my eyes to see if what I was looking at was really there. Inside the box was a China doll. The doll was no bigger than 6 inches tall. It resembled a woman about 30 or so years. Her hair was black and her skin was pale white. The doll's face was partially covered by a red hood, but I could tell you it had a happy expression. I wondered if this was some kind of prank. I called my friends to ask if it was a joke, but they honestly had no clue what I was talking about. I left the doll laying on the table and I left my house to get a few groceries. When I returned, I noticed the doll was laying on the floor of the living room. This was strange. I had left my door locked. I took a moment, and then I had laughed at the thought of a ghost doll and went about my business. Later that night, I had awful nightmares about the doll crying at the end of my bed. Her tears were blood red and smelled like iron. My body was frozen in place. When I woke up in the morning, I was in a cold sweat. I sat up in my bed and cringed in horror. On the floor, at the end of my bed, lay the doll, with a crying expression on its face. I sure as hell knew there was something wrong now. The doll had a happy expression yesterday. I decided the best thing to do was get rid of it. I threw it in the trash and tried to forget about this whole mess. A week later, I returned from the bar one night and saw what I could only imagine is the most horrible thing I have ever laid my eyes on. The doll sat staring at me with a wicked, devilish grin. Beside the doll, laying on the counter, was a bleeding human heart. I vomited on the floor and got very dizzy. This doll was from hell. I took the doll outside and laid it in the grass, and I grabbed a rock and raised it high above the doll. Right as I was about to smash it into pieces, I felt sharp pains in both my arms and realized one of my bones had internally snapped. This doll apparently had some sort of control over me. I couldn't destroy it. It wouldn't let me. The rock I had raised dropped on my head and knocked me unconscious. I woke up in the back of an ambulance. I couldn't move my arms. The ambulance radio spoke of a garbage man whose heart had been ripped out by a wild dog of some sort. I finally recovered enough to go back home after a couple weeks. I never saw that doll again. When I went home, it wasn't there. But to this day, I still have nightmares about it crying at the end of my bed every night. Good thing they're just dreams. They are just dreams, right?